We are live. Hi, Lauren. It's been a while.
I know.
I
It
have
had.
I have to start with a confession. Our last show, I didn't post about this on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is like the uber serious social media platform where one must always be respectable. Our last show, I set my alarm for the wrong time, and that's why it didn't happen. We were going to have Bethany Lyons. She kindly has rescheduled, but it had been scheduled a weirdly early time for me, and I just got confused and set the wrong alarm time. So that's why we weren't around last time. I got some really nice messages of concern, but we're back today, and it's just the two of us.
And it's just the two of us, and it's a town hall, so we'll yammer on for a few minutes here. But anyone who wants to come on and state their grievances, yell about this, that, or the other, or say hi, or do whatever, town hall forum.
Cracking
So feel
jokes.
free,
Yeah,
feel
we're
free to
always
come on and yeah, Mary, you'll post the links for YouTube and
I'll put up
LinkedIn people.
I'll put the StreamYard link in here and then on the other platforms in a couple minutes. You're looking tan. Did you vacay somewhere? Or is it
I've
just
been tanning a little bit. Well, so yesterday it got cold in New York.
okay?
Um, Yesterday, like fall happened, on the 14th of September. I guess we got another week here or so, another couple of days. But yeah, fall
Although
happened last night.
this year with the
I,
crazy climate, maybe fall happened and then summer's going to happen for another month.
well, summer's gonna happen again. Whatever. But yeah, it got cold. I've been around last couple of weeks. I've got a new pad, so I've been sunbathing. Not really sunbathing, but just out back on my patio.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
you posted on you're big on I still can't say X. You're big on Twitter these days. You've taken off there. Um, and yeah, let's chat about that. Because some of your tweets of late, some of your exes have gotten a lot of attention, and I mean, I see your body of work, we'll say, is sort of just a continuous exploration of what's to a certain degree happening in the modern data stack, and that sort of maybe is
sure.
an example of some of the bigger issues across tech, the VC world, et cetera. So, what are you most excited about in terms of what you've been twittering about lately?
Well, there's so much going on finally again because all of the private markets are, the private markets of, VC, private equity, whatever. All these companies are now, the floodgates have opened, and now we've got ARM going public. We've got Klaviyo going public. We've got Instacart going public, and so now a lot of these.
Birkenstock going public, a German company going
Yeah,
public.
Birkenstocks are going public too. They're not really tech, but yeah, it's. I saw that they have Birkenstocks. 250-year-old company. Everyone knows Birkenstocks. Um,
They can spin
they're going
themselves as
public
tech.
as well.
Anything can spin itself as tech if you've watched.
I don't know. Well, everything's a tech company now, but yeah, no, there's some interesting stuff that's been happening in the last couple of weeks, and I mean, one of my favorites obviously is the Snowflake Instacart story that's happened, and Instacart put out their S1 to go public. Um, I know, like, I read a lot of these tech S1s, like as a hobby and like as an investor and looking at things, and I was going to get around to reading it, and then someone started tweeting things about, hey, here's what I found on this. Here's what I found on this. And one of the funny things was the Snowflake spend, and they're spending, they made a cash payment of 51 million or whatever. They're, spending in consumption revenue on like what they're actually spending on the platform of Snowflake, in the twenties of millions of dollars a year. And, a lot of, this is the kind of thing that like if you're looking at this as like an equities analyst and you're like a Wall Street guy or Wall Street person or whatever, like you might not pick that up necessarily. Closed because Slootman, the CEO of Snowflake, is on the board of Instacart, and they share a bunch of mutual investors and etc. And I mean, like I started tweeting out things that were like, all right, well, here's what Instacart's doing on their blog, and here's where they're overspending on Snowflake. That's kind of weird. Here's other stuff that they're doing. And at the same time, Databricks and Snowflake have their stories and their narratives about what's happening at Instacart. And some of the Databricks stuff was deleted off the internet. Snowflake's going out here putting out like reports about they put out like a little PR 4 paragraph 5 paragraph thing about like the facts. Here's the facts about what happened at Instacart. And it's really funny because like this Databricks Snowflake stuff's picking up. Like I know plenty of people who work at both companies. I've worked at like with both products a number of times, and it's really funny the whole thing of what's going on because it's just all this like media spin. And Snowflake is a public company, and Databricks is not at this time. And so Snowflake, like their people and some of their investors even are out on Twitter, X, and they're they're giving their side of the story, and other people who've never looked at Snowflake's NRR before, their net revenue retention are, I started pushing this. My whole thing is everything's related to NRR. In this cloud world, everything's NRR. Everything's the amount of money that you can make off of a customer versus what you made off of them last year. And different companies calculate it different ways. And that's the main thing, right? That is what shows growth. It shows how you can compound revenue off of a customer. And Snowflake's had the best as they've reported it for the last couple of years. And it's been declining. And so, just calling out.
Decline started as of first quarter this year or it started earlier? I forget.
Well, no. So like it's what you made off of the customer in a previous period versus what you've made now. And every company calculates it differently. Like Snowflake counts it as like capacity customers. So anyone who's buying like a capacity contract, like we're pre-buying or we're paying for $1 million of credits, and then like what they use versus what they use in the next period. But like too many investors out here, and like this is some of the goofier stuff that we've seen out here, is like people who consider themselves to be savvy investors in certain ways are talking about subscription revenue on Snowflake as this comes out. And I'm like, nothing has to do with subscription here. I mean, it has to do with consumption. Snowflake's a consumption-based platform. Like they've staked that in the ground and they've said, from the get-go, like it's all about consumption. And the customer pays for what they use, and like what did they pay last period versus what did they pay the more recent period? It's basically just a fraction, and a lot of nonsense has been floating around about this from sophisticated people and very unsophisticated people around Snowflake and Instacart. And I mean, my whole thing is that like, they've got all the same investors. They've got a number to protect at Instacart for Snowflake. And, my opinion, and you can agree with it or disagree with it, is that I've been around the block. I've run these teams before. I've done all this silliness. Like, Snowflake has a number to protect at a big customer. And if they can't protect that number, it's going to show up in their, product revenue. And it's going to show up in their NRR. And, that really shows like what they're what's going on with these customers. And I think like one of my things here, and like a lot of people who are not sophisticated or just want to kind of goof off online are like, Lauren, you're a conspiracy theorist and blah blah blah. It's like, well, no, like if you look at some of the biggest accounts, like Berkshire Hathaway owns Geico. Berkshire Hathaway owns a bunch of Snowflake stock. Geico's a big customer there. Capital One Investments, their venture capital arm, invested in Snowflake heavily. Capital One's one of the biggest Snowflake customers, right? Like you just, if you look at...
Didn't they announce like today or yesterday?
Yeah, well now that's also funny because now Capital One is backing Databricks. At least I don't know how ceremonial it is or what the dollar amount is that they put in. I don't have the details on that yet, but yeah, it's it's all very funny. And I think that like when two people fight, whoever's not fighting is probably winning. And so Snowflake and Databricks duke it out. Meanwhile, secretly on the backside, there are a bunch of Snowflake customers who are moving over to Google Cloud Platform. GCP is not really taking part in this fight. GCP had their conference 2 weeks ago during all this Snowflake Instacart stuff as these two other people were duking it out. Microsoft is out there and they're killing it. So who's not fighting and who is fighting is very funny. And I think that the nonsense out there is, one, for me, very entertaining, and two, you can figure out pretty quickly as these stories develop, who's smart and who's just kind of goofing off. Not from a data engineering or engineering perspective necessarily, but just from an investment perspective. So that's been funny the last couple of weeks, and I've
going long-term prediction. Would you say that the winners in this particular space, we'll say the data warehousing, data lake space, are going to be Google, Microsoft, and we'll see a fading out of Snowflake and Databricks? That's obviously very long term.
I don't know. Well, I don't think Databricks is going anywhere, and I don't think Snowflake is going anywhere. I think people if I'm looking at the equity value in a company like Snowflake, which their stock is the equity value that's traded, that's different than saying Snowflake's not going anywhere. It'll still be around. I just think that a lot of customers are outgrowing it, and a lot of customers are moving to Databricks, or some are moving to Google Cloud, or they're moving stuff around. And, these large spenders that spend in the millions of dollars a year are sophisticated, and they have the resources to be able to move stuff from one platform to another, whether that's Snowflake to Databricks, whether that's multi-cloud stuff, etc., whether that's on-prem to cloud or vice versa.
Let's bring this home to the work you do. Again, you're advising, consulting companies on either how to build their data stack or how to maybe tear apart and rebuild or correct some of the mistakes that have been made. What trends of late have you been seeing as the same trends for the past year where, let's do some ripping out of DBT, which you never needed anyway? Or are there sort of new things emerging right now, or a new awareness of anything?
In my opinion, I don't think there's new. I think it's just the continued trend. I've been saying this for a year. All this extra wasteful stuff is not needed. Tie it back, and people are continuing to tie it back. People started tying it back a year ago, or early this year, January, February, March of this year. And there's a bunch of companies out there that can help you remove cost from your various stacks and everything. Even in the AWS world, there's Vantage is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Snowflake specifically, there's Blue Sky, there's select.dev, and all these companies they get hired and they'll help you save your bills, but really I call it paying down the interest. If you have a credit card, you're gonna start paying interest on interest on interest. Mm-hmm. And yeah, these solutions will help you pay off, the interest on the interest. But what about paying off the principal? What about paying on a mortgage or whatever, or on your investment? I don't know. There's a lot of silliness going on out there, and you see business people talk about business value. The best teams out there are already doing this. The best teams out there are already lean. It doesn't matter what they're using, Tableau versus Looker. It doesn't matter if they're using Snowflake versus GCP. The best teams are able to work on any of this. There's just not that many people in the market, and not that good of leadership in the market. Technical leadership, strategic leadership, and everything. Because there are more companies out there than there are competent people working on this, that people's bills blow up, and all this stuff is exponential, right? And so now we're in year 2. Companies that adopted this in 2020, 2021, they're in year 2 to 3 of this, and the spend's going to keep going on, and it's going to keep going on, and it's going to keep going up. It's some kind of n log of n growth pattern or exponential. And really, it should be linear, almost flat to logarithmic.
So the is assuming that we're going to see moving forward leaner data teams. Let's hone in on like, are we going to see a phasing out of the sort of the epitome of the role of bloat, which was this analytics engineer title. I think the latest numbers say it's still like a very present title out there on LinkedIn, but is that what I've seen is places that actually have them often they're anyway doing the catch-all work of many data people, and the title doesn't matter. But in the bigger teams, we can imagine if as they're going leaner, that sort of silly role is being squeezed out, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and if anyone wants to jump on here, Mary, throw up the things. We can chat about any of this. But yeah, I mean, like some of these roles out here are, like we had data science, and now everyone kind of laughs at data science. Like there are good data scientists out there. It doesn't matter what roles they are. You call them a machine learning engineer, data scientist, data whatever. Like it has nothing to do with the roles. It has to do with like the Pareto of 80-20 of like, whenever you hire a role, it doesn't matter if it's chief of marketing, doesn't matter if it's sales, doesn't matter if it's whatever. Like the best people are like, only 1 out of 5 people are good in most roles. The rest of the people are, I don't know, like some people are junior and they'll catch up and they'll learn, but like data science went through that. And people laugh about data science now. Oh, like, look at all those data science problems that we had 3-5 years ago or 8 years ago. It's like, well, you kind of bastardized the role, like the job title. Like that job title came to mean like, oh, I'm somebody who babysits 10 Tableau dashboards and something or other in one pipeline, and I'm a data scientist. And you see this with all this other stuff too. Like prompt engineering is another funny one. People started making that job title earlier this year. I don't know where that's going. Like I've looked on the Google Trends, prompt engineers going down. Like everyone wants to own a job title. All these vendors want to own a job title, and like promote
you
that.
said in one of our first shows, like we should start the Prompt Engineering Academy. And
Yeah,
my biggest regret is that we pursued Tech Bros instead of launching the Prompt Engineering Academy.
I know. Well, like we missed the boat on starting the prompt engineering boot camp. I know, like there's still going to be prompt engineering and stuff, and that type of technology is still going to exist with with LLMs and everything. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But you've got some other stuff, Mary, in your neck of the woods. Like you just released a website, which is cool for Qubit where you work, and you said that like, and this is something I can go on and on about. Like you released a website that has a different kind of look and a different feel in different ways from this, like I would call it like the Webflow standard. And if people don't know what Webflow is, right, like
Yeah.
it's a way to like make your website. Like in the last couple of years, every tech company has like the same website. Every tech company
Wow.
has the same thing. And you got a little spicy, I think, when you're like, well, we did something a little bit different. So I'm curious to hear about that.
Any your website is your basic kind of the window onto the world for the world to see you. And we actually, interesting, I didn't tell you this, we moved away from Webflow and we did a WordPress site. But if you're doing something at all, I feel like do it right. And what I wanted was to not look like every other website. So we actually hired some really talented artists from Ukraine. Excellent team. I can give you the referral if you want in terms of bringing about a different look. And then I didn't want it to have that feel where you scroll down like 3 kilometers on every page, which I know is for SEO.
And it's the same font, and it's the same font too on all these things.
Yeah.
Like it's.
And then usually, even with the ones that are done better, I don't want to like shit on everyone else's work because lots of smart people, and these are also places that I've worked. But you go from 3 kilometers from the top to the bottom of every page, and you still don't quite get exactly what a product does or a software does, right? Like it's just not, whether it's in the writing or the imagery or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to work against that notion, is that let's lay things out pretty clearly, like what we do here and who we're serving. And it's a version 1. We have a lot to add to it. I'm working on case studies because ultimately I feel like customer case studies are the most powerful form of marketing. Like okay, this is what you do. Tell us how your current customers are doing it. But yeah, I'm happy with it. Got some great feedback. Ryan chimed in there. Thanks for the feedback, Ryan. Ryan Dolly. And hi, by the way, to Ramona. I couldn't see your name on there. Ramona watching from Canada. But yeah, so would love to hear everybody's feedback on it. And I'm
not on the show now, so you don't have to go on the show. There's not going to be a Mary's feedback session.
An ad for feedback. We always use this as an ad for ourselves. But and I'm, having fun with it, right? Ultimately, like, without being too light about things, I'm not into like cutesy marketing. As you know, I'm not into the community marketing at all. I think most of that is bullshit. But ultimately, in what you're doing, in any line of work, you want to have some element of like humanity and fun to it, and that's what I think I brought as well. So, but it's as you know, Lauren, it's a tight market out there. Both, I've been talking this morning in various meetings I had in terms of marketing budgets for anyone who's on the, like, we'll say the consulting side on marketing, or there's not a lot of money to go around because budgets are being constrained so much. And it's hard to be on the sales side these days. Like, we're still in that macroclimate that has a lot of uncertainty, right?
Yeah, I mean, like all these, and I don't know, like it's hard to sell anything, like, because all these companies are under pressure to get logos, and there still are, and so their salespeople discount, oh, well, we'll sell it to you for $20 a year, but like, well, like you should be selling it for $50K a year or $100K a year for whatever your thing is. I don't know. That's going to continue, and I think I have my ideas about who wins and who loses in all this.
Ryan chimed in with a comment that he wants to know more about, like, community marketing is mostly bullshit, and he says,
Ryan, jump on. You've been on the show before. Ryan, jump on.
Feel free to jump on. And meanwhile, I'll give my take on it, which is the obvious one, is like the ultimate example of community marketing in our particular space, obviously, is DBT Labs. And for a while, everybody wanted to be DBT Labs, and let's build up this Slack community. Well, did that turn into monetization of their product? No, it didn't. Like, we're seeing that. Meanwhile, everyone else has their, Slack communities, which have somewhere between 1.5 members and maybe 1,000. And I'd really like to know how many of those have turned that into monetization. I think a lot of it is a waste of time. A lot of it is that, influencers out there pretending to be members of the community who are actually getting paid to do something. And
and this community stuff, like, look at Unity. Like, Unity is a gaming platform, and in this last week they've announced, they're going to be taking more basically points off of the games that get developed. They've had this community narrative. People are very upset about it. Like, oh, this is going to hurt small gaming companies, which it will. And they only gave us, I think it kicks in a couple of months. So after the holidays and into the new year. So effectively, these companies have 3 months to figure out, like, oh, are we going to keep like paying the rent to Unity now that they're jacking up the prices on us? We've got September, October, November, December here, whatever. So like, people, and it's not hard. It is difficult, I should say, to re-platform things. And I think a lot of people are going to be stuck with Unity, and Unity's going to jack up how many points they're taking off of people who put games on their platform. And I think it's the same thing we're seeing elsewhere. Like, I've been on this track for over a year. Anyone who like reads my stuff, will be like, oh, Lauren's beating a dead horse. But I don't know, the new people show up all the time. But like, all of these very, like, last couple of years, like, look at Ubers. Like, people are complaining about Uber. Oh, it used to cost me $10 to go, 3 miles for an Uber ride from my house to wherever. It used to cost me $10. Oh, well, now it costs, $40 on an Uber, right? Like, that's because money means something now, because interest rates are up, and Uber and Airbnb and everything else is going to cost more money. And it's accelerated. Like if you go into the grocery store and you buy a box of cereal, Kellogg's is under inflation pressure like anyone else is, but Kellogg's is a real business, right? Like they've been around for years, and General Mills and whatever.
Mhm.
But like all these VC backed companies that have gone public, all these tech companies have only existed in this low interest rates environment the last couple of years. And now that the subsidies are going away, and they like the ones that are public have to be accountable to Wall Street, and the ones that are private still need to become more profitable, they're all jacking up prices even more than what you're seeing at as a consumer at the supermarket when you're, Captain Crunch was, I have no idea how much Captain Crunch costs because I haven't eaten it in 15 years, but it used to cost $3.99 and now it costs $6.99. I mean, there's more than doubling of prices going on around the tech world, and that's going to keep happening. And someone here says, yeah, they're taking points. Unity's taking points off of installations. Like, also opens up the issue of hostile installations, which could bankrupt publishers. If Unity's going to do what they do, they need to address that. Meanwhile, some are looking to Unreal, right? And so, right, you see these pricing changes here, and there's a whole lot going on because everyone's under pressure to make money, especially these tech companies. So,
Yeah.
it's fun times.
Yeah. Meanwhile, whoever thought we would have had to deal with the big egg conspiracies, right? Like
the big egg conspiracy.
Well, the egg prices went up, and the egg industry was like, as a vegetarian, I'm well aware of the egg prices. This was a couple months ago. Egg prices tripled, and the egg companies were saying it's due to the avian flu in parts of Asia or whatever, and it was all bullshit. It was just that they decided that they could spike their prices because everything else is spiking, and eggs have always been very, very affordable.
And pricing stuff's gonna keep this is the fun part of this, in my opinion, because as someone who buys technology, as a consumer, if you're playing a game that's on the Unity platform, or just at work, if you're using a product that's doubling their prices on you now, now's the time to negotiate with them because they're all under pressure. So if Monte Carlo data observability, I'll just pick on them, but it could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to double their prices on you, you have to say well, why can't we just build this ourselves? Why are we paying you $80,000 or whatever a year to do something that we could do in a week? And we have, because it's on the cloud, we have all the SQL, and we know what we're doing with our logs. We can just build this ourselves and not worry about you. So there's a lot of these conversations happening, and you can drive negotiate right now in the market. Get people down. All these vendors are screwed. If you're a customer, these vendors are screwed, and that's why they're jacking up the prices. They know there's going to be some churn, but they know
you can probably get some stuff for free, if you're willing.
Yeah, get some stuff for free. Get as much as you can for free.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe start having them pay you to say that you're a customer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially it's funny that you say Monte Carlo, and I have nothing personal against them, but where I'm glad these days that I don't work for one of these data products where there's just extreme redundancy in the market. So data observability, data quality, data catalogs, how, some of those are going to.
Yeah. The data catalog is a fascinating space because that market's owned by Calibra and Elation. And I guess Informatica has a catalog product. But they're out there, and I don't know. They're 30%. People, when I say they're 30% shelfware, people have been like, "Lauren, you're being kind." And I'm like, "Well, I know, but there's a lot of stuff out there." But Ryan, you're on here. What's going on, Ryan? How are things going?
The black, the somber lighting, the black. philosopher, Ryan.
Oh no, fall has arrived in Michigan, and so
It's
this is
dark already. It's like noon and it's dark.
yeah, basically. I don't know if you've ever seen John Carpenter's The Thing, but that's basically what it's like here.
Love it. I love it.
8 months a year. So no,
Yeah.
hey, what's going on, Tech Bros?
Hey,
What's
hey.
going on, Ryan? Super
Yo.
Data Ryan?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I wanted to know. I wanted to get y'all's take on what's going on with DBT. When you were talking about how DBT's community was the envy of everybody, and then the monetization maybe struggles they've had, and of course they recently changed their pricing model, and the community totally freaked out, and so I was just curious, to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Well, my thoughts on that, like, so.
By the way, I've been waiting for the show where Lauren gives us her full take on DBT Labs. I don't know if we're going to get that now, but let's
okay.
see how much she says.
No. I mean, whatever. I don't want to waste airtime, but like, I mean, like, they are a company that raised last time they raised at over 4 billion whatever valuation. As an investor myself, like, I look into the secondary markets and I see what people are trading at certain times. Like a year ago, people were even trading at people would buy this stuff at a premium. So call it like a $5 to $6 billion valuation. They make very clearly under $100 million a year in revenue, and so I've written some blogs up about this and about some other things, and they have to, if they want to meet that valuation or anything that comes near it, they've basically got to extract 3 to 4 times what they're making now, at least at a minimum. They've got to make, if they're at 50 million a year. I don't want to speculate on the show here, but like I think I know where they're at, and I think I know where their stuff is. But they've got to at least 3 or 4x what revenue they make, and they tried to do this in pricing. Everyone freaked out. I was leading the charge, and in my own way. I know half their community probably hates me, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. But a bunch of their community listens to everything I say as well, so it doesn't matter. Like, you need to, if they are going to charge you on the number of SQL queries, the number of these models that are run, which is CTE, which references another CTE and blah blah blah. If they're going to charge you on that after promoting that architecture for the last couple of years, you're going to pay more on your compute for doing that. Maybe that's significant to your business. Maybe it's not. Maybe, they're kind of milking you, but you kind of ignore it because it's not that important. Maybe it's 30K, 50K here or there. So you're already getting charged for that. And now they're going to charge you for the number of models that you run. People got mad, and I think rightfully so. Like, if you've recommended this architecture, these patterns here, and then we made 1,000 DBT models instead of maybe making 50 that may be more chunked together. People see that as not necessarily an honest thing, because if you're going to tell someone to do something a certain way, and then now you're going to pull the rug out and charge them, they're right to be mad. And DBT, right? Like, I mean, I got my own thing going on Twitter. I've got my people on Medium. I got people who email me, and I got my customers that I work with, and let's get away from this. Is what I've been saying. And DBT, they reneged on it, and they said, all right, everybody who is a current customer of DBT Cloud is grandfathered in. And so now, we said we're going to change prices. A couple of days later, we changed prices in a kind of insignificant way, but we did change it again. And then a couple of weeks later, all right, now everyone who is a DBT Cloud customer up to whatever date who's still in here, we're not going to do it for you. You're grandfathered in. We're not going to change it for you. This will just be for new customers. And so, like, my take, just to wrap it up here, is that, like, as someone who has run budgets on data and analytics at big companies before, and as a consultant who's like brought in specifically to deal with problems, like this does not look good for them. It shows immaturity. It shows they're not sticking to their guns or sticking to their core principles or whatever. And a number of people. Sure, I know two other big customers in just the last couple of weeks, because I knew these people and I've worked with them before, who, even though they're grandfathered in, said, to heck with this, I'm going to just switch over to GitHub Actions, or I'm just going to, use another thing, and to heck with this. And so that's what's going to happen, and that's what's been happening. And I think, I don't know, I think this is a case study in, you can say I'm being harsh or not, but I think this is a case study in how not to communicate pricing changes. Like, this is a case study in how not to do that, because, someone found it, I guess. I found it. Someone else found it like a day or two after it was announced. It wasn't really announced. It was just like a post that nobody shared. And then people are like, well, what does this mean? Like, I don't know. What does this mean? So I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't know, a lot of silliness going on. But I'll put a pin in it.
What's your take on that, Ryan?
I honestly don't. I mean, my take on it is really, it's interesting to me, and this doesn't exactly answer the question, but it kind of fits into it. The way I've been thinking lately about how to, just the monetization levers that exist for all of these tools, and the ways in which that has shifted over the course of my career, right? Like, we used to spend so much money on software licensing. Right. I can remember back in the on-prem days, the reality was your data warehouse was running in the basement of HQ. And if you wanted to expand it, you needed to order like a server blade from Oracle, and someone had to go stick it in there. And then at that point, we were paying at one point, I can remember I was involved in a Cognos negotiation in 2010 where we were paying like almost $30K per administrator license, right, for a BI tool. And nowadays you look at it and people feel that Tableau's $75 per month license is expensive. Like, this is a lot to pay for a BI tool, right? And so it's just, but at the same time, it's as if, like, the analogy I would draw is, it's if the tooling, it's as if the price expectation for a hamburger went down to a penny, right? But then the infrastructure, the amount you expect to pay to the utility company, went up to like $1 trillion. And that kind of feels like the world we're in. And so I can see, like, from DBT's perspective, they're driving so much revenue to Amazon and Snowflake and all these other people, and they got to be thinking, like, how do we we got to tap into this, because to your point, Lauren, they raised at a level that now they've got to justify, and how do you do it? It's very challenging. It's a very challenging environment for anybody company that really got big in the last 5 or 6 years.
Well, I would say, even I don't know, my whole thing, and people will say, Lauren, you're a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but
less than before, though. Less than before.
But the same people.
Acceptability.
But if you look at the people who throw money into DBT and some of these other things that spin a lot of compute, I don't know, Sigma Computing, DBT, they have all the same investors as Snowflake. So the people, they make a company over here, and then it spins it back. And here's the same thing. Microsoft does this, Google does this, they all do it. But Microsoft and Google keep it their product features. They're a new product line, right? So Power BI, why is Power BI so cheap? Well, that's because it spins Azure Compute, right? Right. And but here, it's just instead of around Snowflake, and I guess to an extent Databricks as well, they have outside partners, and they have the VCs financing these companies, but the same VCs also have money in Databricks, or they have money in Snowflake stock. And so like it's the same thing really, but it's just, distributed among multiple companies.
Is there a world where Snowflake acquires DBT? Pure speculation, right?
People like to speculate on that. I've seen probably 10 different articles. I've seen Ben Stansel write an article on it. I've seen Robert Yee, who's over at Hyperquery. Yesterday, I saw a guy, what's his name, Stas. I think he's at DoorDash. I can't remember, Stas Sajin. He wrote an article about why doesn't Databricks or Snowflake acquire DBT. Well, it's too expensive. Like, no one's going to pay the $6 billion on it. And so if you're going to pay, like, let's say you're going to pay $1 billion or whatever. I'm throwing numbers here, but like a big markdown number. Well, all you're going to do is throw the same VC firms underwater. Now they're going to be underwater on their investment. So they're not going to like that. And the same firms have a bunch of stakes in Databricks or in Snowflake. So like, why would they act against their own self-interests? Like, they wouldn't. And they're just happy to keep the wheel spinning for DBT or whatever. Like, they're just happy to keep it spinning. And that's what's going to happen. So I don't think they're going to get acquired. Not now, not in this year, or I'm sure it was brought up before. I'm sure 2-3 years ago, like, this was brought in front of the Snowflake team and said, hey, you want to buy us for $1 billion? Hey, Databricks, you want to buy us for blah, blah, blah? But like, I don't think it's going to happen now. And the same with I look at some of these, what they're buying, like Databricks bought Mosaic, an ML platform. Databricks is making a lot of ML plays. NVIDIA just came on as an investor in their latest round. I don't know how symbolic that is versus what they're going to do with them. But and Databricks is making ML investments. And Snowflake has bought Streamlit, for example.
But
And like
that's
this,
they largely don't acquire, right? Is Streamlit the only major acquisition they've
oh, they bought a couple different companies, but like Streamlit's one, and it's been 1.5 years, and there's still no like interoperable platform. There's not. It's still in like public preview. So I don't know. I'll shut up for a minute though. But
That's really interesting. As someone who's been in the space for a while, there are people who are still waiting for IBM to integrate TM1 and Cognos, and that acquisition happened in like 2005, right? So
right.
we're 18 years in, and we're like, okay, guys, it makes too much sense. When are you going to bring the feature set together, right? I did want to ask you, Mary, while I'm here, so you're not into community-based marketing. What do you recommend? Like, what do you? This is a selfish question because suddenly I'm in charge of some of this.
I just like to criticize everything. No, I like smart stuff, right? I think good customer case studies. There's no more powerful marketing than that. And then the influencer marketing can work if you're honest and smart about it. Like we hired it's publicly out there at Qubit. We hired a product analytics expert, Timo, and he does a show with us. But on the grounds of it being, again, honest evangelization, that he's in no way pitching Qubit. He's just, if he ever refers to it, it's in his honest assessment of where Qubit fits in the broader product analytics space, without, and we set up that arrangement where he's never out there shilling in a way that I consider intellectually dishonest. And it works. He has a certain platform of product analytics people that he's been able to bring to us, but in that honest way. And to me, it's not just for my own ethics that I like to do things that way, but also because I think that largely people are smart, and that we're at a point in the marketing world where most people can see through that, right? They're starting to see through, like, just because, I'm in your Slack community, or just because somebody, blogs about something, to what degree they really believe in what they're saying. So I don't know if that helps you in terms of how you're thinking. Well, you're at Good Data now. What does Good Data do?
We're like we're kind of a BI platform, right? So it's like the idea behind it is really it's and good data has actually been around. We predate all of the low interest rate environment. So like we have this very stable book of business with long-time customer relationships. It's really nice. But what we do is it's basically a kind of a comprehensive BI and analytics platform that is really focused on delivering like a developer experience. So the whole thing is code-based, open APIs. We have a Python SDK and React libraries, and it's easy to integrate into lots of stuff. But the idea behind it being you can use it to build out these really scalable kind of end-to-end data automations that involve the front end. A lot of times people build out these pipelines and then they're like there's this wall, and then on the other side of the wall is like, and then we're going to do some stuff in the BI tool. And this is kind of more about bringing it all into one automated end-to-end flow, right? So you can detect a schema change in an underlying database. It gets propagated through into Snowflake, and then you can push it into your BI assets and out into any applications where those assets might be embedded automatically.
And customers are medium-sized companies, enterprise?
It's a mix. It's kind of a mix. Like we have some really huge enterprise companies that we have long-standing relationships with, and then more recently, and that continues, right? We continue to acquire those customers, but more recently we've had because of the embeddability, and we've kind of had this customer-facing data product group of companies who are looking to, and really anybody who's embracing kind of the data product way of thinking, but particularly if you're looking to monetize data somehow or integrate it into your customer-facing application, like we support that use case really well too.
Awesome.
I've heard people talk about. I saw one person. I think it was a couple months ago. Someone's like, "Why don't we just make the Czech data stack?" And like all the companies based in Czech Republic or Czechia, I guess it's called now. But
yes, Czechia.
Yeah, and so you have Kabula, you have Deep Note, you have Good Data, and there's your data stack, right? And you can run it on whatever. And if you just start like making there's all kinds of there's the Octopus data stack. If you take all the companies that have octopus as their mascots, you can make a data stack out of that. Like there's all kinds of ways to do this.
Mascot theory, so those are the ones you stay away from if you follow mascot theory, which is companies with mascots fail, right?
That was my thing yesterday. Yeah, as mascot, like bet against companies that have mascots, which also got me into some trouble on Twitter, which is like, someone was asking me about Databricks versus Snowflake. I'm like, well, Databricks does not have Bricky.
They do not
Databricks
have automated brick.
but Snowflake does have Snowflake has a bear mascot, and Purdue Pharma. I don't know if anyone's watched Painkiller or the documentaries or other things that have come out about Purdue, which is the maker of OxyContin and distributor, or they make it and then it gets distributed out, but and they have pharma reps going around and trying to sell it to doctors, right? Mm-hmm. And they had OxyContin mascots. So I don't know. My thing was like, look at the companies that have mascots and dig into it. And now we've even got Dreamforce is happening this week with Salesforce, which is Salesforce's big party that they have every year. And everyone in San Francisco says, this is like, it's never been cleaner in San Francisco because Salesforce will pay people to like clean up the streets and everything and everything. But that's going on this week. And Salesforce has like 12 different mascots. They've got people out there like in costumes, like, we're the no software company. Back when they were trying to promote a SaaS model, they still have that mascot out there. They've got like squirrels promoting, they got the MuleSoft mule, if you want to do the MuleSoft. And so like my thing is the more mascots a company has, or the more mascotty they get, that's when they are moving down market and they are trying to get more junior people involved. And that's when they've given up on trying to sell these big enterprise accounts. They're just trying to sell more to silliness, right? And it's the same, like, Uncle Sam mascots are outside of the Payday Loans place, you're not getting a good rate at the Payday Loan place. I'll tell you that right now. But they've got the sign spinner. They've got the guy on stilts and the Uncle Sam thing. So like, I don't know. What am I thinking? I'll write a blog about it at some point here in the next week or so. But look at what companies. Look at how the mascot trend is working around the companies that you partner with.
Speaking of Dreamforce, wasn't it? It was their conference this time.
Yeah, it was this week. Yeah.
No, but their conference this time last year when they announced some direct integration with Snowflake, but like everything, it was like in private preview, and I suspect it hasn't actually happened yet. It was obviously, or
I was looking. Well, I was looking, and I think Salesforce, they announced this integration with Snowflake, and I'm still digging through it.
Was
and
that
feel free if anyone.
It had a
if
name.
anyone,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but like digging through it, it looks like they want to charge $1,800 a year. Salesforce does for like a terabyte of storage to enable this. There's like there's a lot of silliness going on here. I don't know. I'm not gonna talk too much game here, but I would look into this. Look into it.
The check data stack, though. I'm being serious. Is there some now? You work. I forgot that Good Data is a Czech company, or Czech-based, headquartered. Is there something in the sort of mentality of the Czech persona that's like a pragmatism or something that you see just doing business with them, and maybe that's emblematic of the stack?
Yeah, I mean, they have a very. It makes sense to me that Czech people would have taken this kind of extended this engineering approach to the BI layer, because they have a very like they just have that kind of society, right? Like it's very much a logical, we're going to set things up right ahead of time, and then we're going to count on the system to run appropriately because we did the work up front to make it good, right? Versus kind of a we're just going to throw some stuff together and, we'll learn on the fly.
Or market it first and figure it out later.
Yeah, I mean, they're very much they're very much into producing like really robust, high quality software. And if that takes a little longer than maybe the Silicon Valley approach, they're comfortable with that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Plus, I get to go over there, and great beer in Prague, and food is awesome. It's really.
I have a friend who just started at Deep Note, Megan. You guys probably know Megan Leo, who just started as their DevRel person, I think, at Deep Note. So I'll have to find out more about the Czech side of things. Good stuff.
I love working with European companies more than
awesome.
U.S. companies.
I do.
Yeah, too. I know. Yeah, I know. Because when you work with American companies, it's like, shoot it in. How much consumption are we making? And like, there it's like, all right, let's plan it out. Let's figure this out. We're not in this for 3 months. We want our customers to be here with us for years. Mm-hmm. Let's plan it all out and do it more appropriately. And that's true of like pretty much all of Europe. I mean, some people will be like, not to get into European dynamics, some people will be, the Greeks don't do that. And the Italians don't do that. Or, I don't know. But like everything over there, especially in Central Europe and Northern Europe, and England and everything, and even Spain and Italy, everyone that I work with is like much more planning centric, and it's like so much better to work with.
They have to be deliberate, much more deliberate, even in their hiring, because you can't just fire. Like in France,
that's true. It's harder to fire people there, right?
It's like what's the equivalent of a tenured contract. So it's very hard to fire. Yeah.
I mean, I'm hiring a product marketing person right now. Shout out if you're watching and you're interested in working for an awesome Czech company.
And you're in Prague, though. You told me it has to be based there, right?
Yeah, it does have to be. We're looking for someone, because I need someone on my team. A lot of my team is in the U.S., and I need some people in the Prague office who can kind of help be the liaison, who can actually, when we need something that is best solved by walking over to someone else's desk. And we have like a hybrid model. So, it's not like 100% on site every day or anything like that. But when the rest of the marketing team is in the office, to be able to walk over to someone and actually talk to them is an advantage sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll ask around for sure. I had someone in mind for you, but she's here. So
Yeah.
Good stuff. This was great. Come back anytime.
Yeah.
Bring
Yeah.
it next time.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Hi
Have a
to
good
Jan
weekend,
and
everybody.
Val, Ramona. I can't see all the names, but I think we said hi to everybody in the comments. And we'll be back next week with or without a guest. We're as you know, Ryan, we're fly by the seat of our pants with our planning.
Yes.
But we're back for the fall and upcoming guests. I promise people we tell. We do have Bethany back, who, again, I slept through that show. Sorry about that. And we've got John Cute from Stream, and we've got Arpit coming on soon. I don't know how to say his last name, but everybody knows he's well enough known that people know who Arpit is, and we're open to suggestions for other guests. So it'll be an exciting Tech Bros fall.
Yeah, it's going to be great after the summer vacation.
Yes.
But cool. Thanks for joining, Ryan. Thanks for joining everyone in the comments. And we'll see you next week.
We'll talk soon. Bye.
Yeah.